Hi, Sharon. I'm Ariana. Nice to meet you.
Really good to meet you.
Awesome. So, as a director, you've done a lot of TV and also crime TV shows. What was it like to step into the Power universe, and how is that different from other things that you've done?
Well, what's cool about the Power universe is that I've done a lot of shows on the other side from the cop perspective.
Yes.
And what I like about Power is that we get the perspective of the drug dealers, right? They feel like real human beings. They have loves, they have lives, they have challenges. It's just not all about the crime. And so I think that's what 50 Cent and the whole Power team has done really well, has made that perspective much more complex than what we normally get.
Yeah, because I feel like usually you're like, oh, the drug dealers are the bad guys, but you kind of see their humanity. And then shows like this, the drugs are a bit secondary in the sense. You kind of forget that they're not really like the most positive influence on their community.
Totally. And I think that's a fine line, because as a director, we're constantly looking at, okay, we don't want to glorify the drugs, but at the same time, you don't want to just make them like they are in a lot of shows, just a bad guy. They have no reason for selling drugs. Like we're trying to give it context, right?
Yes. As a director, how did you put your own personal touch when doing a show, but still make it cohesive?
Well, I think in particular with this script, it's called Chicago's Heating Up, this
Mhm.
episode. I really wanted you to feel the heat of Chicago because we actually shot it in August and we actually shot it. And I was like, so I wanted fans in every shot. You know what I mean? Did you notice that?
I did notice that, and I lived in Chicago for a couple years, and I'm like, yes, it would be hot. And I feel like a lot of times in TV shows, they pretend elements don't exist. So I did notice all of the fans. Yes.
I'm so glad because that was kind of my Easter egg. I was like, and when Joseph, who plays Tommy, I was like, anytime you can kind of wipe the sweat off of you. And I had the makeup people, keep putting sweat because I wanted us to feel like we're in a sweltering summer Chicago. And it also helps like build the pressure, like yeah. So I'm glad. So that was one way that I kind of put my stamp on it. The other was we shot at the Regal,
Mhm.
do you know the Regal?
Yes, and I was going to ask you, like, what is it kind of like to shoot um in Chicago instead of like a lot of sound stages?
It was that was one of the things that both myself and the producers really pushed was let's make sure we see Chicago. Like, so the Regal, as you know, is a historical building in the Black community. And so it was really important that we shot that and that you saw how beautiful it looked. I wanted you to see Chicago in a beautiful way, even in the community areas. So when, Diamond is giving a speech, you've got that big, beautiful mural behind him. Even when Kris Lofton, who plays Jenard, is he meets up with the drug dealer. I had kids running through the fire hydrant because those are the things that I remember as a kid, and made it a community as opposed to just seeing it in one kind of, oh my God, this is a depressing area. Because it's not like that. It's not just one thing, right?
Yes, I definitely noticed all of that. So I'm glad it was intentional. So, speaking of Diamond, it kind of seems while he's giving that speech, he kind of, I feel like Power, a lot of it is not what they say, it's their facial expressions when they say something. Is that, especially as he's getting closer to Leon and his mom, I think he's starting to consider that maybe that this life isn't for him. What would you kind of say is Diamond's tension between wanting to be a positive member of the community with his barbershop, with mentoring Leon, but also being a part of this life?
Yeah, I think what plays really nicely across the season is that Diamond, he's not his brother, right? He's not Jenard. He definitely has this longing for normalcy. And I think a lot of that comes from he just came out of prison not too long ago, right? So he knows the consequences, he's lived the consequences, he's older, and I actually think that Diamond is a very sympathetic character,
Mhm.
and I think that we can relate to that idea of doing things that you don't really want to be doing, but you've also got to make a living. And also your self-esteem hasn't taught you to do anything different, you
Yes.
know?
This is kind of what they've seen in the neighborhood, that in order to get out and be successful, and it's not even for the money, because I don't know if people notice on the show, it's not like they have all of these bags or all these crazy cars. I think a lot of it is the fear of being hungry, literally hungry, and not having shelter or things of that nature.
And also not having a purpose. Like
Mhm.
part of being in that community and being the guy that can, help out Leon's mom or help out whatever is having a purpose, and if you don't, you don't have that identification or purpose, it's tough to know who you are. And I think Isaac played that speech so well, like he obviously is uncomfortable because Diamond doesn't make speeches, but you could see him get into the flow of it. And I just want to say, shout out to the community, because most of those people who played background in that scene are from that community.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Yeah.
It seems if Shanti and Claudia kind of have this connection and bond that neither of them expected, because Shanti is underestimated in her career as a woman. Claudia has had that same experience, and even though Shanti has very strong feelings about working with white people, to be frank, and kind of gentrification of her community, I think them being women is this bond and connection that I think they find solace as in, like, oh, we could actually do this on our own. Could you speak a little bit more about their relationship and kind of forming that in this episode? Because this is the first time they actually even talk to each other.
I love that you picked that up. Like, I love that you picked that up. That definitely Shanti's like, I don't mess with white people. And then all of a sudden she's in this relationship with this woman, business relationship with this woman, where she's kind of like, this is kind of cool. Like, I get respect as a woman. She, I give her respect as a woman, even with the scene in the club where, yeah, the kind of grown mad respect. I think it's a really interesting dynamic. And I think it's an interesting empowerment moment for Shanti, even for Claudia, right? She's been under brother's shadow, under father's shadow. It's an interesting thing and also I loved when Shanti calls her on her classism, where
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, you don't think I know? You don't think I know the owner of that club?" So they're challenging each other. I like it. I like that relationship. I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Yes. Another interesting relationship that kind of started and very abruptly ended in this episode is Vic's relationship to the cop. The cop actually seems to, he's like, okay, if you need to lose the mic, you need to lose it. This is why we're doing this, to kind of protect the community. And it seems as if him and Vic semi have a connection and understanding. But then when Vic gets caught, he has to shoot him. What was it like to kind of build that relationship so quickly that it's just like, oh, is he going to do it? Why is this visually such a tough decision for him to come to terms with?
Yeah, I want to give props to that actor, Brian Keats, because he brings a humanity to Vargas. And it's funny, I was actually just talking to him not too long ago, and there's a scene where he's just standing in the office with Stacy Marks, and he doesn't say anything, but there's a vulnerability and a humanity to him that I think Vic keys into as well, especially when they're sitting on the bench and he said that could be my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see Vic take that in, and like, this is a real human being. And it was really, really important to me, to the producers, to Brian, to bring that humanity to that cop so that it actually takes something for Vic to shoot him.
Yes, yes,
Right? Yeah. So it's not just one of those like, whatever, it's some guy we don't know.
yes. I always like to ask directors this. Was there a scene that got deleted for time that you were kind of upset about, or a scene that was extended that you guys had to cut?
There wasn't a whole scene that got cut, but I'm sure all directors feel this way. We do these very fancy moves, like a jib shot, moving in, coming in, and some of those get cut out. I will say that most of them stayed in. I was really happy. I did have the love scene between Diamond and was a little longer in my cut. And and maybe there were a little spicier moments that that got cut out, but it's still a beautiful scene, and I think it's still quite hot between them. And yeah. But that's one that I extended, and for time it got cut.
Yeah, I did notice the fan in that scene though, so I did.
Yes,
I did keep your Easter egg. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I enjoy learning so much about the behind the scenes of it all, and I can't wait to talk to you about future projects.
thank you. This was lovely.
Awesome. I really appreciate
really
it.
lovely.
Yes. Let's definitely talk soon.
All right. Take
You have a
care.
great one.
Bye.
Bye.